Welcome to Two Sons Podcast. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week. It's been a very long time since we've done a record, but I promise it was not by design. My friend Luke here just had one heck of a string of random occurrences that took place that kind of just completely took him off the grid. I have barely seen you.
I know.
I have so much that I need to talk to you about and tell you about, and this is basically going to be a podcast of you and I catching up, but within the structure of House of the Dragon season finale.
I am remiss to say House of the Dragon is starting to steal my heart a little bit.
That's so interesting to me because this has been like Game of Thrones has there's a certain like expectation as you're working your way through a season, and you're expecting like 3 or 4 like truly jaw-dropping, like crazy moments per season. That's kind of the Game of Thrones thing. Like it's not just like season finale is crazy. You know, like other TV shows where there's like the slow burn and then there's usually like a really active season finale. Game of Thrones is kind of the opposite of that. Like there's usually like big moments throughout, and then there's usually just more of a cliffhanger at the end. Like what you saw at the end where all the armies are marching.
So cool.
A lot of stuff like that in Game of Thrones where it's like, Daenerys is on her ships and they're traversing the this, or like this army's on the move or whatever. That's like supposed to tease. But this was a relatively slow moving season, I thought.
It was, but there's still a lot that happened. And you and I have always talked about this. Like the world building for Game of Thrones is top notch. And that's what this season was focused on. And for whatever it's worth too, like I did get some great level of satisfaction seeing all the different pieces in their final position before Fit hits the shan. You know, like seeing that at the end of the season was just as cool to me as seeing a giant battle.
Oh, absolutely.
Which most people I think would disagree with. Like, and I can get that. Like, I can get that for sure. But I was super satisfied with how this season ended.
You and I have both been like this forever, though, because we were like that with Star Wars. It's like our favorite thing about the Phantom Menace and Darth Plagueis is like the way they meticulously lay out all the chess pieces. And like, I think it's really fascinating how you kind of see these like different dynamics taking place. Like both sides have a loose cannon. There's Aemond and there's Daemon, these two like guys that are out of control. Like Daemon literally unleashes the Blackwoods to engage in treachery with the Brackens to bring them to heel. And then it's like Aemond is like, I'm pissed off, so I'm going to burn a city to the ground. Like it's a lot of like them being kind of loose cannons. There's the selling of your soul kind of thing going on. Like Rhaenyra needs dragon riders, and so she sells her soul to get these bastards on these dragons, which leads to the Valyrian like kind of dragon tamers or whatever those guys are. There's like they refer to themselves as an order, which I thought was fascinating.
That's really cool. Yeah,
and so like their order says like screw you, we're leaving,
which rightfully so. Like I can get where they're coming from.
Totally
sure.
Agree. Like
especially when you get dudes like what's his name, Ulf.
Yeah, Ulf's a dick,
dude. He took the biggest nosedive imaginable in regards to like being likable to just being hated.
You're pro Ulf? You were pro Ulf?
Oh, for sure. I thought he was funny. He was kind of endearing. He was always at the bar like shooting the shit with his friends, you know? And then as soon as the dude gets power, he's just a major dickhead.
This is like Luke's pro Aemond take. Remember 2 weeks ago when I had to shoot Luke down for saying that Aemond was the best king, and here he is burning cities down.
No, I didn't say he's the best king. Wagon. Yeah, I didn't say he's the best king. I said he had a lot of kingly features in his ability to like not stray away from the powers of a king. Mainly, that's what I was trying to tell you.
I think that there is a tiny little kernel of truth in what you were saying, but Aemond is also out of control and a bad king.
Yeah, and he's falling apart too. He looks nervous all of a sudden. That happened fast.
No, I think like the Rhaenyra getting those dragons like fundamentally like changed kind of like the feel of the war. And I thought like that scene at the end of episode 7, which we missed obviously because you were out of town, but the scene at the end of episode 7 when Aemond takes Vhagar to chase Silverwing. To chase Silverwing back to Dragonstone, which interestingly enough, Dragonstone's like right next to King's Landing.
They are
if you look
very
at the map,
close.
they're like there,
incredibly close.
And so basically, like when Vhagar gets there, he runs into Syrax and Silverwing and Vermithor all kind of like waiting, and then like he like pulls away and like panics and leaves, and it's fascinating because like that the selling of the soul dynamic like Rhaenyra did that with the bastards, right? You could tell by the order of dragon like tamers that kind of left. You could tell Jacaerys is super pissed off. Ulf like responds to getting given a dragon by literally just being a complete like asshole, for lack of a better
term. He's just so entitled all of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden he's like, he's like,
it's awful.
I'm the dragon rider, man.
It's awful. Yeah. But then there's Hugh, which and then Adam. Hugh and Adam think are on the right path.
I think they're hinting pretty strongly too at the young Valerian daughter, Rhaena, getting Sheep Stealer,
which is feral dragon,
which is different from the books, because in the books there's actually a completely different character that we haven't met at all in this show that ends up getting Sheep Stealer. So I'm really curious. I like when they differentiate from the books a little bit to kind of add their own little flair, you know?
Right? If it makes sense, yeah. Remember you were giving me crap about that prediction when I said that she was going to get Sheep Stealer, and you're like, no, I don't think that's it,
Luke.
So you've got some bad takes too.
Nobody remembers that.
Yeah, you've got some bad takes too.
Nobody remembers that. I'm just kidding.
Like, there's no way.
You're absolutely right. And in my defense, though, the reason why I said that is because I knew from the book that it ended up being somebody different. But I think it's cool that they're going a different direction. And like,
spoiler
something
alert.
Poetic.
We talked about the book. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. I think because the show is clearly going in a different direction, I think it doesn't really count as a spoiler. But there's something poetic about like Aemond was like this too. Remember, Aemond never got a dragon. He got bullied by his brother and the Valerian boys. He was just kind of like treated like crap. And then one day he got Vhagar, and it was like, oh shit.
Yep.
And like there's kind of a similar thing with Rhaena, where it's like she's the one that got asked to do the dirty job. You got to go up to the Vale and suck up to this lady so that you can get the support of this particular region.
Right.
And like she doesn't have a dragon. The last time she tried to mount Moondancer almost killed her. Like it was like this whole fucking thing. And now she looks like she's going to get herself a dragon, which is cool. But anyway, cool. The soul selling part on the other side, and we started to see this a few episodes back, was Aemond really wants to break the blockade in the neck. Not the neck. I can't remember what it's called. The gullet. Sorry. And he sends Tywin Lannister to the Triarchy. And this scene, dude, I found this scene super fascinating because there's some pretty significant like parallels to a long time ago. I remember watching this YouTube video about the U.S. and some of their conflicts with the North African pirate nations. And it was kind of similar in the sense that like they were like raiding these ships, right? And they constantly were trying to figure out how to deal with it, right? So like they tried military force, they tried like attacking them. There was an inland invasion at one point where they like landed on the shores and like tried to capture cities and stuff. And I watched this video a long time ago, so I could be butchering some of the facts here.
And it was on YouTube.
Yeah, and it was on YouTube. So yeah, not exactly the Smithsonian, but there was but one of the things that eventually happens, if I remember correctly, is they do eventually like sign a treaty with these North African nations where it's like, hey, like we'll just do a tax. And it's like the tax instead of the piracy, but it like kind of ends up doing the same thing, you know?
But it's legitimate.
And I thought that was super fascinating when he's sitting down with the Triarchy, because it's the exact same situation. It's like, we need your help. Well, it's a little different because they actually need their fleet.
Right.
But it's a similar kind of dynamic where it's like here are these dudes from a different continent who actively hate us, who are capitalizing on our commerce by raiding these ships. That's literally their economy. Like for the Triarchy, that's their economy. Yeah. They're a pirate nation, you know, like that's what they do.
They're like a legit pirate nation. Yeah, they're like very kind of civilized. I know.
They have a hierarchy.
They have very, very classy individuals.
3 dudes is like that. They're all on the same level. Know. They probably have like some weird rituals. You know, everyone gets 1 vote, like, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like legitimate. It's like illegitimately legitimate.
Yeah, it's like we're running a business here.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I thought it was fascinating how that negotiation ended with like, we'll tax you guys. But then what I thought was super interesting is, you remember in season 1, there was a lot of drama surrounding the Stepstones.
Mm-hmm.
That was where the crab feeder was. That was
Yeah.
when Daemon raided the beach. That was where Corlys got his neck slashed. Like, there were multiple separate wars in the Stepstones in season 1. The first of those wars is the only one we actually saw on screen, but there were references to other wars after skipping way ahead in time. Like, remember, there was a scene, you probably don't remember, I just happened to because I rewatched it right before season 2, but there's a scene where, like, at the small council meeting, one of the guys brings up the Stepstones, and Viserys is like, again, here we go. Like, we got to go fight the Stepstones again.
I actually do remember that. I think.
Yeah. But so anyway, I thought that was fascinating because like now Thailand is. What did you think of the whole like triarchy,
Dude,
female commander that ends up like kind of kicking butt?
It was great.
Taking names.
Yeah, it was. It was a really nice relief from the intensity of the rest of the season, and I thought it was a really fun way to kind of end the season on almost like a lighthearted note. Yeah, like mud wrestling, which is so childish in the perspective of like everything else Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. So I loved that scene. I also thought it was cool that the pirates weren't just your typical like pirate that you think of. Like, they actually were somewhat classy, and actually in comparison to almost everyone else that we see in House of the Dragon, they're almost like the most sophisticated. Did you notice that? Like, they're like some like as far as like cleanliness and like sophistication and like what they're wearing, and even the way they carried themselves, like they were like in some ways the most chill out of anybody.
Dude, this is something they worked on in Game of Thrones too, but this is like kind of a basic concept of like xenophobia that Game of Thrones attacks, where it's like I feel like there are a lot of Americans that just think that if you go overseas, like everyone's a third world country, and we're this like immaculate society, and like everyone else is like, and it's just not true.
Dude,
like like I went to Japan and I'm like, they're better at this than we are. Like, they're way better at life than we are. Like they're cleaner, they're more organized, they're friendlier. Like,
I need to live
crazy.
in Japan, man.
Yeah, I know. And like but like that's the thing. You travel around and you find out pretty quickly that's the reality. That's a big thing. In remember when we watched Shogun, when the what's the main dude's name? The dude who I can't remember what they call him. The Anjin. Well, but there's another name that they have for him. But the Anjin, he like it's similar to type
the
of
barbarian.
Deal, like, they just start calling like, you're a bunch of savages, blah blah blah. And then he finds out pretty quickly like, actually no, this is not how this is. That's something they do in Game of Thrones, where it's like in the Lords of Westeros always refer to Essos. Remember at one point when Larys tries to tell Aegon to like run away to Essos. He's like, I'm not gonna go over there, or they're goat fuckers or whatever. They literally think, they think they're all just a bunch of like uncivilized people, and like that they go over that in Essos too. It's like all of these cities are actually like kind of bigger, more grand, more like, and so that's definitely something that like kind of like xenophobia concept is something that Game of Thrones definitely tries to attack.
It's super interesting. Like I was gearing up for some classic piracy, you know, and then I was like, are these the pirates?
Exactly.
I would hang out with these dudes.
There's a pirate that ends up allying with Stannis Baratheon in the actual Game of Thrones series, which by the way, maybe we should do that as like kind of a mix up with House of the Dragon, is like, or not House of the Dragon, with Rings of Power, try to like hit some Game of Thrones episodes in there, because
some
like
big ones.
I really do want to start to work through that with you, because it's just it ties all this stuff together. Like, let's talk about one of the most important scenes of the show. So Daemon ends up pledging allegiance to Rhaenyra after experiencing a vision after touching the weirwood tree.
Just typical prodigal son.
Yeah,
like that is Daemon's character.
Yeah. The weirwood trees, there's kind of like a general understanding, like the people way in the north, they worship the old gods, and then like the people that are around King's Landing, they worship, the seven, and then like everyone kind of has like a different set of gods that they worship. I think the people down in Dorne worship the red god, but I could be wrong about that. And the red god is a huge factor in the actual Game of Thrones series. That's where that like the redheaded lady, which I think you saw in season 1 show, makes an appearance. But anyway, so the weirwood trees are like the conduit through which you can communicate with the old gods. So like
freaky little trees.
You
man.
would. By the way, George R.R. Martin's face was on that tree. I saw that on Instagram.
Oh yeah, that was his face.
Yeah, and it was carved out of foam, which that was interesting.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Yep.
So anyway, those trees used to be like, there used to be a forest of them at Harrenhal, and they actually chopped all of them down except for that one. And so that's why that place is cursed, because allegedly they like killed all the weirwood trees or whatever. But so like Daemon touches a weirwood tree and immediately gets a vision.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of interesting stuff that shows up in this vision. There is a three-eyed raven, which is a reference to something I won't even try to explain to you right now, because it's like Luke has only seen season 1 of Game of Thrones. We're gonna work on that later this summer. But like there's a vision of the White Walker with the army of the dead behind it. There's a dead dragon.
Mm-hmm.
There's Daemon like plummeting down in some water. And there's a pretty specific image of Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne.
Right.
And then there's like a comment from, if we see Daenerys, we see a reference after Rhaenyra, we see Daenerys with her 3 dragons sitting on the ground. And then there's this voiceover from Helena, who, remember, is allied as a family member to the Greens.
Right.
And she specifically says, like, this is just a story. This is your part. Are you willing to play your part? Which I thought was super fascinating, because it was basically like one giant reality check for Daemon.
Right.
You know?
Which he's always having, and then he strays away, and then he just gets put back into his place again. He continues to be such a likable character.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I thought, interestingly enough, too, like how quickly he turned back to Rhaenyra after seeing that is a pretty strong indicator, too, that like Daemon has his ambitions. Mm-hmm. Daemon does truly deep down believe he should be king, of course.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, he does have a strong sense of loyalty and duty, like kind of underneath it all.
Right. And to get a little bit analytical, this specific topic, I think, is one of the reasons why House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, the writing is superior to other things. Because him not having a whole lot of loyalty to Rhaenyra is almost why all that could happen. And then as soon as he grabbed power, then he returned loyalty back to Rhaenyra, and it made sense from like a logistical and like a writing standpoint. Mm-hmm. And it's just super impressive that in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon they can do that so seamlessly without you even thinking about it.
Did you think one of the things I thought was fascinating was, along that same line, Daemon talked a big game to Simon Strong, mm-hmm. and then he had like some kind of like vague references to like king instead of king consort.
Right.
But he never ever truly proclaimed himself. There was that one weird conversation that he had with where he was like, I'm going to march on King's Landing, and if she wants to take my place by my side, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But again, he never said that in front of any sort of real audience of consequence.
Right. It was...
Every time, like even in front of, do you remember the Oscar Tully rant, which I want to get to in a minute, which was epic, where he basically was like, "Yeah, I don't like this guy either." But listen,
right in front of his face.
Yeah. But like even in that part, like at the beginning, like he straight up references him king consort to his face.
Yeah.
And then Daemon doesn't say anything.
He takes it on the chin.
So like part of me wonders, like as much as we roast Daemon, as insane as he is, it's like in season 1 when he ran away with Lady Mysaria to Dragonstone. And he had the egg that belonged to Aegon, the one who died. And Rhaenyra flew the dragon and landed on the bridge. And then, like, he was sitting there, he was talking a big game, and then he ended up tossing the egg to Rhaenyra. So it's like, there's a certain element of, like, all right, my games are over. Like, it kind of feels a little bit like Daemon likes to kind of fuck with you and tease.
He throws a fit. Yeah.
And then he always comes back at the end.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. That's totally his character. But he's powerful when he does it. Like, and again, good writing. They do it in a way where Daemon doesn't lose power. It almost helps him gain power in the viewer's eye. So
he definitely wins you over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a win you over element with Daemon that does not exist with Aemond at all.
No, not even close.
There's no like redeemable qualities there.
No. Do you think Aegon is redeemed at all?
I'm starting to like him a little bit too.
Really?
But here's the thing, like Aegon was like,
oh man. All right, here's your take. Here's a bad take about Jay from Jay.
Here's the thing with Aegon. Horribly incompetent. Obviously like just a dude who likes to party. But I don't necessarily think he's a bad guy.
Oh gosh, he hung rat catchers.
No. But he hung rat catchers in a fit of rage after his son had his head cut off.
Dude.
So here's what I'm saying.
Fun.
He's not a good king. Certainly not. He's a horrible king.
Yeah.
But like deep down you kind of feel like he's a victim of circumstance in some ways, because like the dude did not want to be king.
Jason,
actively did not want to be king.
The day you hang your landscaper is the day we'll no longer be friends.
I understand, and what he did was wrong, and he deserved the criticism that came from it. Made a couple of bad calls along the way, but I do think that he's a victim of circumstance in a lot of ways.
So Laris is an interesting character too, because he's kind of wrapped into this. He is so incredibly loyal to him. It is wild.
I think that comes from the cripple thing, don't you?
I do too. Mm-hmm.
Like there's definitely like Laris has like a special like soft spot for him.
For sure. And the fact that Laris was so cutthroat, like we only knew him as cutthroat, for him to all of a sudden have this like soft spot and to kindle this friendship with him is absolutely wild to witness.
There's something similar to that in Game of Thrones with Tyrion Lannister. He was like, I have a special like attachment to, what was the specific phrase he used? He was like cripples something and broken cripples, bastards, and broken things is what he called it. Like he basically was like, I have a special like kind of like attachment to those people, and I want to help them along the way. And I thought that was really interesting, because like that Laris piece of it. And by the way, his point is very simple, and this is something that happens in Game of Thrones all the time, where it's like, when there is a threat to your rule, you have to kill them.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, like we heard a bit from Rhaenyra and Alicent in their confrontation at the season finale. She's like, I have to cut your son's head off for everyone to see.
That was harsh. Yeah,
but
it's not like she was doing it like she's like wanted to.
Yeah.
She just knew that was the fact of the world.
And she said it to Rhaenyra. She's like, you know that, or to Alicent, she's like, you know that's what I have to do.
And after she said it with conviction, but then maybe like a half minute goes by and she starts to get like tearful. And it's just a nasty little world.
That's basically what Laris is telling Aegon. It's like, dude, Aemond is power drunk. And he's gonna want the throne, and the only way he can secure the throne for himself is if you die. This is a spoiler alert. I blurted out a spoiler, and so we're cutting in another spoiler alert so I don't get in trouble. About
How
a
long?
minute, 30 seconds to a minute. Fast forward, and
Sorry.
you will miss the spoiler. Thanks, guys. And so you got to get out of here.
Yeah. And his dragon did die, for sure, it seems.
No, it didn't. They think it's dead, but it's not. Oh, fuck. Spoilers.
Sorry. Well, I don't think you really gave any. Well, now we just did.
So yeah, his dragon's name is Sunfire, and like I fucked up, because like the whole
Jason,
thing is,
stop saying the F word. We're not going to get any sponsors.
You're supposed to.
Disney isn't going to want to sponsor us.
You're supposed to think he's dead, but he's not.
Okay.
But that's definitely a spoiler.
Okay. Yeah. We'll clean that up.
Yeah, I'll add a spoiler alert to it.
Welcome back, everybody.
But yeah, so there's Laris taking Aegon out. Alicent doesn't break in, but just comes in to see Rhaenyra. And there's this funny thing with Alicent too that I think is so funny, where it's like, and Rhaenyra calls her out on it, where it's like, you think you can just like go camping for the rest of your life? Like,
I know.
Oh, you like to be out in the woods. You like to. Did you
is
have
that
a
where
great
you feel
time?
good?
Did you have a great time floating in the
Yeah,
lake?
you wanna go
That's so
swimming?
good for you. It's like she's literally like calling it out. It's so funny, because what she's hitting at is completely legitimate. She's like, you actually think that you can run away from this now after you caused all of this? And then
Seriously.
Alicent goes like, well, they were going to take it away from you anyway, which by the way is true. But like
Right.
at the same time, like that's the first time she's saying it is now when it's like convenient for her to say,
know.
actually, I didn't have anything to do with this because I'm just a powerless woman. Is
I know.
basically what she's
and
saying.
and it took like hundreds, if not thousands, of people to be killed, like a town to get destroyed, another castle to get destroyed, her son getting burned almost to death.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just ridiculous that now she's like, oh, I'm really sorry and I'm a good person.
Did you
You know what it was that really turned her?
What?
It was getting tagged by that fish. That's what it was. That's when she really turned.
It's like one of those slow motion things where the fish is
Yeah.
hitting her in the face, and then like it's just like there's a voiceover in the background, and it's like, and this is where I realized I fucked up.
No, seriously, that's what it takes. Just getting tagged by nasty fish.
Did you like that scene from? I really like this scene. This was classic Game of Thrones to me, where Sir Criston is like sitting down on the log, and he's like openly
Alicent's
using
brother.
Alicent's favor to like clean his sword.
Right.
And then Alicent's brother comes up and is like, "You've been doing my sister, haven't you?" And it turns into this whole thing. And then he's like, "Yeah, bro. Like,
I have."
I have." She and he basically professes why he loves her. And then there's this really interesting, like, because he has this like couldn't be bothered type of expression on his face. And then it turns out, and he breaks it down. He's like, we're all just dragon food now.
Yep. And then it ended with them sitting together on the log. Like,
because he's
that
right.
is how you break a man's will, is you state facts and then you act unbothered by it.
Yeah.
And he's like,
it's like, actually, after what I have to say, you're just going to want to go ahead and grab a seat right here next to me because you saw what I saw, didn't you? And he said that you saw what I saw, and it's true. It's like, I mean, they do a really good job of this in the Game of Thrones show too. The first real example of it, we see dragons burning people, but the first real like open field dragon battle we see is in season 7, and like it's
awful.
bad.
Yeah,
it's bad, and it's like it descends into chaos immediately,
and
then it just turns into no one can see anything, and like everyone's dying, and it like and the way that Kristen puts it, which I thought is fascinating, he's like, we're just dust between the dragons' feet.
Right.
And that's really all it is. Like, the war is really between the dragons. There's not really a whole lot that people can do.
No. Which, in a dragon's world, what could you expect?
Let's see if we missed anything.
Dude, I think that's most of it. That's kind of the big stuff.
Hugh Hammer, I actually like.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what ends up happening with his character.
Really quick on Hugh. His bloody wound is what saved him.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what dragon was it? Vermithor?
Yeah, the second largest dragon.
Yeah, Vermithor is just in a rage, right?
Yeah, just having
a ball.
Yeah, just
in his little dragon den. And Hugh gets injured, and it shows him get injured, and it's very deliberate where he injures his wrist or his hand. And then I believe that Vermithor is probably able to like smell his blood.
Oh, you think so?
And I think that's probably what
actually
saved
really
him.
interesting.
Yeah, I go back and look, and it might just be me trying to be an annoying podcaster and like looking for something to talk about. But like honestly, I think it was.
Boy, do I have an Easter egg for you guys!
To all my viewers, all 100 of you. No, but I think that's what saved him. I really do, and also the fact that he was doing something noble.
Yeah, saving the girl's life.
I think it was a combo.
Yeah, no, I Hugh Hammer is a super likable character. I'm curious to see what happens.
He's like very
him.
Nordic looking and just kind of a badass.
Yeah,
dude. He has a noble story where he's like trying to gain strength in the world in order to like help his family and his wife.
And the king basically lied to him and said,
about
I'm
the
gonna
funding.
give you some stuff, and then he never gave it.
Yeah, because he's like an iron worker.
Yeah, he's got kind of an interesting kind of motivation, which I'm really curious to see how that develops as the show goes along. Sir Alfred Broom. The one Rhaenyra sends to go talk to Daemon.
And a turncoat?
Just immediate turncoat. And dude, I thought Daemon was going to like cut his head off after he pledged his allegiance to Rhaenyra, and that dude like snuck out of there. He like ran away, which I thought was fascinating.
What do you mean? I thought he kneeled.
No, he didn't. He as the crowd was like all getting like raucous when Daemon was like
he
riling
snuck
up,
out?
he turned around and left the building.
Who does he have though? I mean, like of course he has his house, right? But like, does he have really any power?
So
or
he's
he could just
on
be a
the
little
small
rat.
council. I'm pretty sure he is a lord of it. So like that, it's very possible that they end up losing that. And I don't know. This is not like a spoiler thing. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's very possible that Sir Alfred Broom ends up leaving and working for the Greens.
Yeah, I wonder if he ends up being like a spy for them.
Mm-hmm. Which would be stupid in my opinion, because it's like Rhaenyra's got everything kind of lined up.
I know.
And like for all your concerns about Rhaenyra and whether or not she's like strong enough to do this, like her and Daemon are like in lockstep doing this together. Like whatever your concerns are, Daemon's going to be there. It just, like I thought it was funny that Daemon just called her. Oh, I never really thought about you as a turncoat there, Sir Alfred.
I know. And then I thought it was funny too, where they're in that area. What are the trees called?
The weirwood trees.
Yeah. So they're around the tree, and he hears like someone say like traitor.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
And it was really cool. And he's like, "Did you hear that?" And then Damon was like, it's okay. Like this
That's
happens
actually,
to everybody.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they whisper traitor at him right before he talks. I totally forgot about that. That's
I just
super
thought that was interesting. Looks like a truly haunted place.
Did you have any other notes from this episode?
No, I think that was it. What do you? Wild prediction for first episode of season 3 would be this for me. I think it's an all-out battle. I think we see the Blacks going and scorching somewhere, because all the Dragon Riders were gearing up, and they all had these like very like solemn faces on, like they were like upset about having to go do something. Like they were all putting their gloves on and getting geared up for what looked to be battle. And I think that they're about to assault a location and kind of kick things off.
There are a couple of I'm not going to go into too much detail on specifics because I don't want to ruin it for you either. But this is going to be some mild spoilers, just a heads up. There are a couple of major things that I expect to happen pretty quick. The Triarchy fleet runs into the Valerian fleet pretty soon, and there's a major confrontation
sea battle
on the ocean. You saw him flying over the Greens, but Daeron, who is Aemond and Aegon's younger brother, he actually grew up in Old Town with the High Towers, but he has a dragon, and he's actually flying with the High Tower army. And he ends up like having a major moment like pretty early in his appearance in the show.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting to see. I can't, in terms of the timeline, like I do know that there's a bunch of ground confrontations that take place soon, but I can't like remember the order of them just because it's been so long. But yeah, like here's the thing. By all accounts, season 3 should be the shit hitting the fan.
Yeah.
Like it should be when things go crazy. And for whatever it's worth, like as much as I've complained about this, like in the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, there's like one major conflict, major conflict, and then there's a lot of storytelling. So like, I think there's a good portion of this that kind of just falls in line with what you expect with Game of Thrones. Yeah. But overall, like I'm really enjoying it. Like Game of Thrones ended like so busy and so intense that like going to something that's a little bit more slow pace has been like a little bit of an adjustment, but it's still classic Game of Thrones to me. The acting is still incredible. The sets are still incredible. I really like how they keep repeatedly tying the House of the Dragon storyline directly to Game of Thrones, which would not be easy to do considering that there's like 100-year gap, you know? Yeah. So like I've been really appreciative of the time that they've taken to kind of connect those two pieces and make it like make sense and actually make it seem like some of those motivations matter, because like they really do play off a good versus evil thing in this show, where it's like the Blacks are literally like fighting for the future fight against the White Walkers.
Correct. Yeah.
And the Greens are just like power-hungry usurpers.
Interesting. I wonder if that's why I'm liking it more. Because like the last 2 episodes, I was literally surprised. I was like, you know, I'm actually like really liking this. This is odd, and it might be twofold, threefold. It's threefold. One, it's good storytelling. Fourfold. One, it's good storytelling. 2, the sets and
are incredible.
The amount of effort that's put into it is absolutely incredible. Number 3, it's
no 10-inch rubber penises.
No, yeah. Number 3,
in the last
it's
few
like
episodes.
in the last few episodes, it's way less perverted and so much more palatable, in my opinion. And then number 4, it's a story about good versus evil, which I've always loved. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and now this. So I think that's why I'm liking it so much.
Yeah, no, you're gonna really appreciate it as you continue to get further along. And like honestly, like I feel pretty strongly that if you actually watched Game of Thrones, you would get deeply invested in it. Like, because it is one of the things that's interesting is like House of the Dragon kind of has a little bit of that Star Wars problem where it's like it's kind of operating beneath this larger storyline of the White Walkers. Now, it's still very intense because it's the most important thing happening in that universe at that time, but it's kind of just people versus people. Where in Dragons versus Dragons, but like Game of Thrones has a very strong like life versus death type of tone to it that takes on like a completely different feel, and that really like even in the early seasons, like when like they'll be showing you all these chess pieces moving in the battle among the men, But then there'll just be these like repeated references where it's like, don't forget, this is
right.
the real villain. And then you
Right.
get into the last half of the show, like seasons 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it's like that storyline just comes way to the forefront and it becomes a much bigger deal. But I'm excited. And what's cool about that is like, there's no timeline on it.
Yeah.
Like we could do that over 5 years if we needed to.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll use that as like kind of just like a thing to kind of boost or give us a little more to talk about when we're in the slower times of the year. Luke and I are going to stay on and record in just a couple of minutes another episode where I talk about something specific from Star Wars, and then we just kind of catch up a little bit and talk about how things have been going. We'll release that episode about a week from now. I am going out of town on Thursday for vacation, and you're about to go out of town again for vacation. You leave tomorrow?
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
I leave tomorrow.
Dude.
We're gone in 6 days. Yeah, I'm not complaining about going on vacation. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like an a-hole. But yeah, it's been a busy,
bad timing.
Dude, it's been busy, man.
Yeah.
There's been so much.
No, I totally get that. I've been feeling for you the last couple of weeks because everyone's been there where life just kind of piles up on you sometimes, and it can get it like, and that was just tough. Because like I said, you and I barely spoke over the course of the last couple of weeks, but we'll have that other episode run in about a week, so you guys have some content while Luke and I are both on vacation, and then when I get back and when Luke gets back, we pretty quickly turn into, we've got a High Republic book to cover that I've finished, and Luke, we're going to talk a little bit about it in the next episode, but he's going to be finishing. And then late August, Rings of Power Season 2, which I watched did you watch the full like 5-minute thing?
Dude, it looks
incredible.
It looks really
so
good. It looks really good.
I'm super excited for
I'm
that.
about to do a deep dive in preparation for that and just get
stuff?
I'm just going to get up to speed on everything.
It really is. Like, I did some of that during Rings of Power Season 1 where I started to like kind of like dig down in like the Lord of the Rings Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
And I just start reading about all these different
nerdy
things. But like that kind of stuff, they really do put a good amount of work into trying to get that stuff to tie together.
Right.
And like, that's what makes Game of Thrones great. That's what makes Lord of the Rings great. That's what makes Star Wars great. That's why you and I kind of tend to go to that towards that type of content. It just kind of fits into our worldview with that kind of stuff.
For sure.
All right, guys. So yeah, we'll see you in about a week for some Star Wars talk.
Thanks a lot.